I'll just get confirmation that the live stream started as well. Okay, good morning, everybody. Can I just welcome you all, whether you're here in the room with us this morning or whether you're attending online. I'll just begin with a few introductions. My name is Sarah Dickinson. I'm a councillor for Stonehaven and Lower Deeside, and I am the chair of the Kincardine and Mearns Area Committee. Joining me this morning here at the table are Councillor Carr. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Morning, Councillor for Mearns.
Thank you. I have Tim Stephen on my left as well, who is the area manager for the Kincardine and Mearns area. Round to his left, we have the two committee officers, Gemma Morrison and Alison Cumming. And to my right, I have the senior solicitor, Martin Ingram, who is the monitoring officer with us this morning. So I have a bit of housekeeping to run through, so please bear with me while I do that, and some other information to share at the start of the meeting. So this is a predetermination hearing for an application that has been submitted for construction and operation of 400 kV air insulated substation, formation of associated earthworks, access, drainage, landscaping, security, creation of temporary construction compounds and set down, equipment and material storage areas at land at Betteresso Forest, Stonehaven, Aberdeenshire, AB393 UX. The planning application is at 2024-1951. It is the Hurlie substation. So please note that the hearing is being live streamed and a recording will be available to view online after the meeting is finished. So you'll have that to refer back to. And can I ask those councillors joining online to please activate their cameras where possible? And can all councillors, whether in person or online, please introduce themselves first when asking questions. Please give your name, your ward, and could you please clarify if you're a member of the Kincardine and Mearns Area Committee or of the Infrastructure Services Committee, or possibly both. And can all attendees online mute their microphones when not speaking? For those attending in person, there are no fire alarms scheduled for testing today. So if the alarms go off, the nearest fire exit is to my left here. Toilets are located through the back door, slight dog leg straight on, and you'll find them in the corridor there. We've scheduled meal breaks at 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. and at 5:30 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. if required. We'll also take multiple comfort breaks through the day, and I'll advise accordingly on those. There are multiple members of the community speaking today, and we recognise that this subject matter can be very emotive. That's understood. And we'd just like to remind everyone attending, though, to please be courteous and that, to recognise that we won't accept any unacceptable behaviour. And if it does occur, the hearing will be stopped and parties removed. So the purpose of today, this hearing has been arranged to allow councillors to hear from and question those with a stated interest in this application. Following the hearing, a planning report will be circulated to the Kincardine and Mearns Area Committee, along with a note of this predetermination hearing. A special meeting of the Kincardine and Mearns Area Committee will be convened to consider that report, and the Area Committee will then forward their views on the application to Infrastructure Services Committee for its consideration when determining the application. So it's the Infrastructure Services Committee that is the determining committee for this. Although the meeting is open to the public, only the applicant, relevant officers, statutory consultees, and those with a valid letter of representation to the application who have submitted a request to speak within the necessary timelines will be permitted to speak. Speakers, you're allowed up to a maximum of 10 minutes, and I'd ask that you focus your comments on views that you've already expressed in writing. Only councillors are permitted to ask questions of the speakers, and they may recall a previous speaker for clarification if that's necessary. A reminder to councillors that this is an information gathering session and debate will not be entered into during the hearing. So I really urge you, please, to keep your questions clear and concise, and to avoid prefacing questions with comments. And I would ask members to avoid asking questions to which the answer has already been provided, if possible. So the following parties have intimated their wish to speak. And I'm just going to read through the names of those who are expecting to speak today, and this is the order in which we'll be hearing from them. So we have the Planning Officer, Stephanie McMillan, who's supported by James Hewitt and Elizabeth Tully, who are seated here to my right. We have the applicant, Chris Gardner, who's Consents and Environmental Manager, Callum Grant and Scott Ramsey for Scottish Hydroelectric Transmission PLC. Then in terms of consultees, Mark Ansell, who's the Treasurer of Rapids, Drumlock and Durras Community Council, is here with us. Ross Cleffin from Hughside Community Council. And then the following individuals have indicated that and have requested to speak with a valid representation received as well. Anne Matthews, who is not a consultant for Inverness Community Council, attending today as an individual. As valid representation also received from Kate Matthews, from Gloria Potter, Trevor Reid, Brian Wade, Andrew Ritchie, Tina Morrow, Shirley Morrow, Ian Thornton Kemsley, Bryony Mackay, Mark Hope, Angela Taylor. So my apologies if I've mispronounced any names in the reading of that list. So anyone who is not, I'll say this again, anyone who is not registered request will not be permitted to speak today. The first thing though that's now going to happen is that the planning service is going to share with us some drone footage of the site. So I would ask that to be set up for us. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. I'm a planner with the energy team at Aberdeenshire Councils, and I'm the case officer for this application. The planning application today is for a national building seeking full planning permission for a 400 kilovolt air insulated substation and associated infrastructure land at Petrific Forest, Stonehaven. The first part of this presentation will cover drone footage to provide context to the site and place of the site visit. Part of the presentation will last around 10 minutes and will include a combination of stills and videos to increase familiarisation with the site. The footage you're going to see was captured by Aberdeenshire Council in September of this year. So the site is shown here in the orange boundary. It's located approximately 4.5 kilometres north of the closest settlement from Liffey and about 4.9 kilometres west of Stonehaven, which is closest point. The site is approximately 292 hectares and comprises a conifer plantation, forming part of an active commercial enterprise. The land cover is non-native conifers with smaller areas of bog and heath, where felling and replanting has occurred. The site and the surrounding landscape are intersected by multiple forestry access tracks. I'll go into more detail on the site itself in the next part of my presentation, but the area shown here in purple is the whole site boundary. So this includes the main site here and also your two access tracks, one from the A957 to the north and the second from the Auchenblade, the Stonehaven Road to the south. The substation itself would be located on a level platform, and I've shown an indicative sighting of that here in red. The text on this slide is slightly out of focus, but that's not the main focus. I wanted to draw your attention to a couple of landmarks here, which will hopefully make this drone footage a little bit more understandable. So you've got your overhead line, your existing overhead line route showing down here where my laser is. You've got an existing access track running along the south of the site here. You've got an area of trees just here, which will feature in the drone footage and will give you a bit of context to the site, because the proposed platform is located just to the northeast of that. You've also got an existing access track that runs all the way up here and then splits into here. The existing Petrific substation is shown here. So that hopefully just gives you a bit of context from an aerial perspective. So moving on to some drone images, I've got 4 images to show you first from the locations marked here on the map. First drone location is shown here and is from an existing access track from the site looking northwest. So in the distance here, you have the existing overhead line just here and the site boundary that's just beyond this overhead line. The existing substation is located just to the west here, and I'll show you this in later footage. And the proposed platform would sit just beyond this image here, and these are the trees I showed you in the last image. So the second image is taken from here, so the western boundary of the site, just beyond the existing overhead line. Thank you, Mark.
One of those on the other screen. Sorry.
So yes, again, the second image is taken from just beyond the western boundary of the site, looking east. You've got the existing overhead line here leading into the existing substation, and the proposed substation platform will be located just around here where my cursor is.
Stephanie, can you raise your voice a bit? The venue,
Yeah,
that was
so
on
move
my.
us closer first.
Thank you.
So the third image is taken from here, so the eastern boundary of the site. Is that better, loud enough? So third image, so again, this is taken from just above
It was
the.
no back here.
Was there, sorry? You can't hear me. Okay, I'll try to check a bit louder. So this image is taken from the access track, so just above the access track within the site, and it shows the existing substation and the existing overhead lines coming from that substation. And then the final still that I'm going to show you is from the very north of the site. So this is the main site access, and it's from the A957 Slug Road. This is currently used for the existing substation and for forestry works ongoing. So I'm now going to show you 3 short videos, again, to give a bit more context to the site. So the first one starts from the western boundary of the site, looking east, and then pans around to show the existing substation, the existing overhead lines, and also the surrounding forestry. The second video is taken from within the site itself, looking east, before panning round to the north. I'm going to pause it just after 9 seconds, I think, roughly, just to give you an idea of the location of the proposed substation platform. So I pause here, and this is roughly the location of the proposed platform, which sits just before this line of trees and crosses this existing access track. Play the rest of the video for you. And then the final video again starts from the access track looking west and then pans around the site. And that concludes the first part of the presentation.
Okay, thank you very much. In which case, we'll now move on to the substantive part of your presentation, please, Stephanie, for which we have 10 minutes, like everybody else. Thank you. That's okay.
Never work as you want.
I'll give you a warning at 9 minutes.
Okay, thank you. So in the second part of my presentation, I'm going to provide an overview of the proposed development, summary of key policy issues, and outline the process going forward. The proposed development has been brought forward by SSEN Transmission in order to reinforce the electricity transmission network and support renewable energy generation. Proposed development is classed as a national development. This is identified in National Planning Framework 4 Annex B as National Development 3, which is strategic renewable electricity generation and transmission infrastructure. This slide shows the overall site plan, including proposed access tracks. The total area of the site, as I said before, is 292 hectares and located within a commercial forestry plantation. So the main access to the site will be from the A957 Slug Road, which is shown here, the north of the site, and this utilises an existing junction for forestry works and also the existing Petrus substation works. Deliveries would originate from the A90 and then using the A90 or B9077 corridor to the north. Some construction traffic may access the site from west of Stonehaven via Slug Road, but these would be limited to smaller deliveries and construction personnel. In addition, the applicant has stated that some smaller deliveries would come from the Stonehaven to Upham Blay Road, the C1 road, and that would be from the south here. This route shows the abnormal loads access route, which is proposed. So they will be delivered to the port of Aberdeen via the A956, A96 and A90. The vehicles would leave the A90 at the Kirkton of Crescent Junction before following a number of unclassified roads shown here out of Stonehaven, and they would then enter the forest through the second entrance on the unclassified Hill of Swanley Road. In order for this route to be deliverable, a number of public road improvement works would be required, and this would be a separate consenting process. So this slide shows the general layout of the site. You've got the substation platform shown here in grey, which would measure 685 metres by 300 metres. and would be formed by excavating into the slope of the site. The red shown here is your areas of cut required, and the green shows the areas filled. The two areas here in blue are the proposed subspaces, and the various pink and purple and orange lines show the access tracks around the site. The substation platform itself would be surrounded by a 4-metre high perimeter fence. So in terms of buildings on the site, there would be 5 in total. The control building would be located here to the north of the platform and would measure 23 metres by 53 metres with approximately 7 metres. The switchgear building would be located within the yellow circle shown there and would be approximately 9 metres by 18 metres with a height again of approximately 7 metres. The 2 tallest buildings on the site are the synchronous condenser buildings located within the yellow circles there, just south of the platform. And they're about 30 metres by 30 metres with a height of approximately 15 metres. Final building, which is shown there in the yellow circle, is the solar plant box, and it's about 25 metres by 40 with a height of about 7 metres. I've added this image here. It's taken from chapter 3 of the EIA and is a photograph of an example of a recently commissioned air-insulated substation platform. So this provides a general impression of the appearance of the substation platform and the infrastructure associated with the proposed development. So this is figure 7.3 from the EIAR and shows the area to be felled. So the area shown in red here is the infrastructure felling required for the proposed development. Felling is shown in orange, and the area shown in blue is where no felling is required. The total area to be felled is approximately 87 hectares. Again, this is taken from chapter 3 and shows the approach by the applicant to landscaping across the site. The planting schedule comprises woodland, loch, shrub and scrub, grass and wildflower, and also wetland planting. Evergreen conifers would be replanted on the proposed temporary set-aside soils storage area, which is just located up here, which is currently forested and would be cleared. Full details of the landscape plans can be found within the EIA. The drainage layout, so a network of surface water drains are proposed to run through and around the perimeter of the platform, which would carry runoff from the hard surface areas of the platform and discharge into 4 outfalls. So you've got the Burn of Day to the northwest, southeast you've got the Burn of Bogs, and you've got Subspace 1 and Subspace 2. This slide has been included to give you an idea of the closest residential properties to the site. So to the north, you have Clapham Shields and Whitehall, located approximately 410 metres and 750 metres respectively to the north of the site. And they sit just over 1 kilometre from the proposed substation itself. You've got 2 dwellings at Upper Gall, approximately 630 metres to the east of the site, and approximately 965 metres to the east of the proposed substation itself. And then you have Elstone, which is shown down here to the south of the site, which is about 470 metres to the south, and just over 1 kilometre from the proposed substation. And this slide shows the cumulative development. Again, it's taken from the EIA itself, and it shows some of the other projects that are going on in Fetteresso Forest. I'm now going to show you a series of viewpoints to give you some more sort of visual information. The first viewpoint is taken from here from Hillhead of Hurlie, which is located here. Second will be from Nether Windings, a little bit closer to the site. Third is from Rickerton up here. Fourth is from a minor road west of Kirkton and Fetteresso, shown here. And Hillis Wanley which is shown here. So the first one, viewpoint 1 is hillhead of Hurlie. The first photograph you see at the top here is the baseline photograph, and that will be the same for each of the viewpoints I show you. And the second one is the proposed substation. Just to note that these are at year 0 and not with any proposed planting. So the significance of effect here is considered to be significant. You can see the proposed substation just here below the hill line. This is approximately 3.5 kilometres southeast of the proposed substation. This image is taken from Nether Windings, which is about 1.6 kilometres southeast of the site. And you can just maybe make out some of the buildings there, although they're not that clearly visible. Viewpoint 3 is from Rickerton, which is 2.7 kilometres northeast of the site. And there is no view of the substation itself due to the existing landform. And that one. So viewpoint 4 is from the minor road west of Kirkton of Fetreso, which is 3.2 kilometres southeast. And you can just make out some buildings around this area here. Viewpoint 5, Hillis Wanley, 3.8 kilometres northeast of the site. The significance of effect here is considered to be significant, and you can make out some of the buildings here and also along here.
You have about 30 seconds.
Okay, so don't intend to say everything. Basically, the report circulated prior to this meeting sets out planning policy context, and it sets out the high level support for national infrastructure requirements of NPF 4. Policy 11 energy is the key policy which this will be best against. In terms of letters of representation, we received 2,318 valid letters of representation. 8 of those were in support and 2 were neutral. We also received a further petition, 1,140. 10 minutes, so if you could wrap up. 1,140 signatures, which accounted for 1 objection at the third stream of governance. There are also 2 objections from community councils, so Mayor's Community Council and Stonehaven Community Council, and there are no technical objections. Thank you.
Thank you very much to the planning officer for the introduction. So members, now over to you, to us, to ask any questions that you have of the planning officer at this point. So if you could use the hands up function, please, on Teams. Councillor Black, Dawn, and if you could just remember to introduce yourself. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Councillor Black, one of the councillors for Haven and Lower Leaside, and also opposition spokesperson for Infrastructure Services Committee. Just a point of clarification when you were discussing the road and the access points, clearly that would just be during construction. But you were speaking about the fact that most traffic would go up the A90 AWPR and then in the South Leaside Road and come down north along the Slug Road. But then, when you went on a few slides, you were speaking about the unclassified Swanley Road quite a bit. So I just want clarity on what kind of construction traffic would be on the Swanley Road bit.
Yeah, so the main construction traffic will come down the A95 Slug Road, and the abnormal roads is what we use for the Hillis Wanley Road. So there'll be 6 at the moment. It's anticipated there'll be 6 abnormal loads. And that's the route that they would use, but all construction traffic, the rest of the construction traffic will come from the A957.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Everson, Alison.
Yes, thank you. And a similar point about roads, but
Alison, could you?
no, sorry, Alison Everson, mental councillor. I had a similar question about roads. In the papers we had, there was a comment about road construction traffic from the port of Aberdeen going down and turning at the North Junction. Could you explain that to me a bit? I wasn't clear on that.
Try. So the idea is that's where the abnormal loads, and the idea is that they would come down the the A90. They would come off at the junction with that takes you along the coast road, so the A92. That's still. They will then look back on themselves at that junction to take the A90 north and then come off at the Kirkton of Fetteresso junction. So the idea is that the loads will split and they'll be able to make that manoeuvre around and then go back up north along the A90.
Thank you. Councillor Carney, Laurie, if you could introduce yourself, please. Thank you.
Yeah, councillor, I need to turn on my,
Please.
yeah, councillor Carney for the Mayor's Ward. My question was similar to councillor Black. It was about the Swanley Road. And because it's a very narrow road anyway, and there are some really challenging bends on that road across some really small bridges. Is that going to be, are you going to be widening the bridges there? Is that in the plan? To, if it's abnormal loads?
Yeah.
And if you could turn your microphone off, please, Councillor Carney. Thank you.
Yeah, so there would be some public roads improvement works required for the Swanley Road, and they don't form part of this application.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Carr, George.
Thank you, Chairman, and good morning, and thanks, Stephanie, for your presentation. George Carr, I also sit on the Infrastructure Services Committee and Council of Mayor's Ward and Vice Chairman. My question really relates to the water catchment. It's a reference to the various burns around the site. Could you just confirm if they drain into the Carron catchment area, so they ultimately would end up in the Carron River? Thanks.
Yeah, I believe you've got the Carron and the Cowie to the north and south of the site, and ultimately, yes, I believe they do.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Online, Councillor Ewanson, Marion.
Yes, good morning. Councillor Marion Ewanson for Inverurie District and a member of Infrastructure Services Committee. I just want to ask more about the forestry business that goes on there. Presumably it is sustainable forestry because it all looked like evergreen trees, pines and such. So it said that you said in the presentation there were 87 hectares to be felled, but presumably if it's a sustainable forestry operation, there would be areas of trees being felled on an annual basis. And I just wondered, in slide 12, I think it was, the view going west, there looked like some new planting. I just want to clarify how the forestry operation works and would the sort of rate they'd be felling trees.
I'm afraid I'm not entirely sure about how the fence felling operations work. I know it's a commercial forestry enterprise, and the figure 87 hectares is for construction felling. There would be about 29 hectares, I think, of management felling that would be required. So yeah, as I understand it, as a commercial enterprise, there's constantly restocking and felling of trees in the area. I'm sorry if that doesn't answer your question, but I don't know too much about the commercial side of that.
Yeah, that's okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, just a couple of questions for me. Now, the use of the Kirkton Fetteresso exit off the A90 is purely for the abnormal loads. If I've got that correct, I'm getting a nod, but I have that correct. Can I just ask, and I know you said there were only 6 just then, but what would happen if the A90 was shut? Would those deliveries simply not occur until the A90 reopened? I'm just concerned that we don't ever have a situation where any of that's coming through. So even this was to get concerned. Thank you.
I would suggest that's one for the applicant to cover.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, thank you very much. One further question though. So just one further question. Can you just say a little bit more about biodiversity net gain and whether or not there's a requirement for that to all be on site, how that works? Please.
So yes, there would be a requirement for biodiversity enhancement as far as proposals, and that would be secured by way of condition. Ideally, we would like to see that take place on site, but because of the nature of the site as a commercial forestry plantation, it's not always possible. So there will probably be some off-site enhancement as well. And I do know that the applicant has been in discussions with our natural environment team to discuss options for that.
Okay. Thank you very much. So I'm seeing notes from Councillor Turner. Alan.
Apologies, Chair, for my late hand. And I was tempted to ask the question just now, and tempted also to hear from the applicant. But Councillor Alan Turner, Stillhaven, Lower Deeside, and Chair of Infrastructure Services. When you look at the roads and you consider the usage, etc., talking about abnormal roads, you're talking about construction type vehicles, traffic. Do you actually consider the actual workers going to and from site as well within that? So obviously, I'm thinking that's, also it's going to be more volume traffic versus what there is presently. Just curious.
Yes, yes, we do. And that information is all included within the traffic and transport chapter of the EIA, and will be covered in more detail at committee stage.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Are there any further questions at this point for the planning officer? Remembering we can always bring speakers back for further questions. No? Okay, so thank you very much, Stephanie, for your presentation and answers to our questions so far. We're going to move on now, in which case to the applicant. So could I invite, I believe it's Mr. Gardner who's going to take a seat at the table here. Apologies to those of you online. So just getting a few things sorted in the room. So I'll hand over to you, Mr. Gardner. I'll turn my microphone off, which will enable you to activate yours. And when you're ready, I'll start the clock in 10 minutes and give you a warning at 9. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair and members. My name is Chris Gardner. I'm a Consent Environmental Manager employed by Scottish Hydroelectric Transmission. I'm here today with my colleagues representing the applicant. We are the transmission licence holder in the north of Scotland, and we have a duty under Electricity Act to develop and maintain an efficient, coordinated and economical system for electricity transmission. This statement focuses on the key material considerations contained within the representations received by the Council, which have also been summarised in the Officer's report. In terms of statutory consultee responses from key agencies and from within the Council, there are no outstanding objections. Where holding objections were received, we have worked with those consultees to address the matter raised, and those objections have been withdrawn. We have reviewed the final consultee responses and are content that where planning conditions are proposed, these requirements can be met. We acknowledge the objections received from members of the public, and some of the key issues raised and are addressed in this statement. In planning terms, the need for the project is established in National Planning Framework 4, which confirms the strategic significance of delivering a decarbonised transmission network. The proposals are designated as being of national importance, with strong support that emphasises the need for strategic reinforcement of the transmission network to provide connections for new renewable energy sources. The proposals would contribute significantly towards the UK and Scottish Government's targets on energy security, network resilience and net zero. The application planning statement presents a summary of the technical and economic needs case set out by the energy regulator Ofgem and the National Energy System Operator, demonstrating the technical need for the proposals. More specifically, the proposals form part of the wider reinforcement of the onshore transmission system between Teeling and Kintore through the construction of a new 400 kV overhead line. As part of this, new substations such as the proposed development are required at key locations to provide network connection points for the new overhead line. In addition, and equally importantly, the proposal also offers opportunities for onshore and offshore renewable generation projects to connect directly into the network. I will now move on to discuss our approach to site selection for the proposed development. In line with obligations under the Electricity Act and our own site selection procedures, the preferred site must offer the best technical and environmental solution in the most economic manner. Site selection followed a well-defined two-stage process, which we use for all new substation sites. Whilst we aim to reduce the environmental impact and minimise the disruption to sensitive habitats, the site selection process is a balance of environmental, technical and cost considerations. Our initial site selection was undertaken in the vicinity of our existing substation at Fiddis. However, following early consultation feedback from stakeholders and the community, and then further information on likely future connection requirements, a review of the initial site selection process was carried out, and the decision was taken to revisit the site selection and widen the service area. Following this, a new location at Hurlie in Fetteresso Forest was selected for both site options to be advanced to design and consenting stage. The site is close to our existing Fetteresso substation and existing Kinfield Lane overhead line. In terms of community consultation, initial non-statutory consultation on site selection was undertaken in early May 2023, with a virtual consultation event also held for those unable to attend in person. Following this,
Can you raise your voice, please?
yeah, absolutely.
And the benefit of those online as well as in the room.
No problem. Following this consultation, the design was taken to revisit and extend the site selection exercise, from which a new proposed site was identified and taken forward to the formal pre-application consultation stage. Details of the statutory consultation process were provided to the council in the proposal application notice, which was approved without amendment. This notice was also sent to relevant community councils, ward councillors, MSPs and MPs. Consultation events were undertaken in March and June 2024, with over 400 attendees recorded at the first events and 171 at the second. The events were publicised via our mail website, mail drops, letters, press adverts, social media channels, and emails sent to those registered to receive project updates. The entire consultation process and the feedback received is summarised in the submitted pack report, which demonstrates the thoroughness of our consultation efforts and the statutory requirements being fully met. In respect to cumulative impacts, we have assessed the potential for cumulative effects across all environmental topics, taking account of the potential for impacts caused by our proposal in combination with other development projects in the public domain prior to the finalisation of our application. The list of proposals and our approach to cumulative assessment was agreed with the council at the EIA scoping stage. The assessment itself is a qualitative assessment based on previous project experience and professional judgment, and was undertaken by suitably qualified professionals. Is therefore considered to be a thorough, robust and transparent assessment. Due to the nature and location of the proposals and considering the mitigation proposed, significant in-combination effects are only anticipated in respect to the character of two wider landscape character types and visual effects relative to a limited number of viewpoints and some cumulative developments. In response, the landscape and visual impact assessment undertaken in support of the application provides a landscape mitigation strategy for the proposed development. This strategy includes blocks of native woodland, shrubs and grasses around the substation that will reduce the visibility of the proposals. The strategy will also compensate for the loss of existing landscape features and has been developed to integrate the proposal into the landscape. The council's external landscape consultants confirm the site is not within a landscape which is formally valued or otherwise noted for its scenic qualities, and that the site is well contained by landfall and forestry. Their conclusions are proposed mitigation will provide effective screening, and they have raised no objection on landscape and visual grounds. We are aware of concerns surrounding construction, traffic and noise. This will be carefully managed through construction, traffic and noise management plans, which will be approved and enforced by the council through planning condition. An outdoor access management plan will also be prepared and agreed with the council to ensure the safety of members of the public and other recreational users when in proximity to the construction site. The implementation of a construction environmental management plan and oversight by an independent environmental clerk of works will also ensure best practice compliance with all legal requirements to minimise disruption and facilitate proactive engagement with the local communities. In terms of potential noise impacts, the effects of the proposed development upon noise sensitive receptors in the vicinity of site have been thoroughly assessed. The assessment concluded there will be no significant residual effects. Position supported by the council environmental health team have raised no objection to the proposals. A third-party objection was subsequently received, challenging the methodology and conclusions of the noise assessment. In response, we provided a technical note to address the points raised, which was reviewed by the council. We were also satisfied with the information provided. In respect to biodiversity net gain, we are committed to delivering a minimum 10% BNG on all projects gaining consent across our network. And we have a budget of over 100 million for nature restoration, making us Scotland's largest single investor in biodiversity enhancement. In this instance, we intend to compensate for loss of existing biodiversity units through a combination of on-site gain of around 4% and 6% to be delivered off-site. A dedicated team actively progressing off-site nature restoration projects within the Aberdeenshire area. These projects are being developed in collaboration with strategic partners and local landowners to ensure ecological benefits are delivered at a landscape scale. Whilst we cannot disclose specific site details or partner names until legal agreements are in place, we can confirm that engagement is well advanced and our structured methodology ensures measurable biodiversity improvements and long-term stewardship. In terms of the felling requirements for proposed development, there will be a net woodland loss of 87 hectares, equivalent to less than 18% of the forestry study area that has been used as part of the EIA to assess impacts and establish a felling and restocking strategy with forestry land Scotland. This woodland loss should also be considered in the context of the extensive commercial forestry area known as Mourne Forest, which is the site is situated within and which totals over 6,600 hectares. None of the woodlands within the site form part of the ancient woodland inventory, and while small areas are recorded as native woodland, the reality is the areas identified are comprised of commercial conifers or open ground. Following the implementation of mitigation measures such as off-site compensatory planting and targeted management felling, the residual effects of the development are considered negligible and no significant effects have been identified. Neither Scottish Forestry nor the Council's Natural Environment team have any objections subject to conditions on compensatory planting. In conclusion, the officer's report accurately summarises the extent of material issues raised by objectors. We consider that these have been addressed in our plan of submission and, where necessary, appropriate mitigation has been identified and can be conditioned. The proposed development comprises critical national infrastructure that supports both Scottish and UK government's targets of national energy security, network resilience and net zero. There is clear support for the proposed development from a development plan. Detailed site selection, design, evolution process have been undertaken, which minimise the potential environmental effects of the proposed development, whilst balancing technical and economic considerations. It is considered that we have achieved a scheme which is environmentally aware, technically feasible and economically viable, and which will cause the least possible disturbance to the environment and people who use the land. Thank you for your time. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
20 seconds to go. Thank you very much. Okay, I will just ask you to bring your microphone a bit closer when it comes to answering. Thank you. So again, turning to member, if you have any questions for Mr. Gardner, he's also joined by some colleagues who will be able to help him respond if need be, I'm sure. So, Councillor Carney, Laurie.
Yes, hello. What is going to happen to the existing substation that's there?
So the proposed development is required in addition to the infrastructure that's there already. So they serve different functions on the network. So the ongoing works at the existing best vessel are for the requirements set out within that flexible period. We do have additional works coming at the existing best vessel site, which we've recently had consultations on as well. So that is going to remain critical on our network for the foreseeable future.
Thank you very much. Councillor Carr.
Thanks, Chair. And thanks so much for your presentation. I've got two questions. Firstly, as the planning officer indicated, this will drain into the Carron catchment. Now we've seen a few flood events in recent years, from the Carron, and I just wonder how great has the study arena been into the isolated nature of some of those flood instances we've had in that particular area, because they have been isolated, and across, if you look at flood nature in recent years, we've been seeing different parts of the North East that have been flooded. So for that area in particular, have you drilled down into you know, the mitigation that you're proposing to put in place that would offset the heavy rainfall that we have seen. So that's my first question. Thanks.
Can I just ask Chris that whoever responds just reminds us who they are and their
From me. Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, from a design, the drainage point of view, obviously we carry out full flood risk and drainage impact assessment work. We have to design our developments to 1 in 200 year plus climate change. So that means that we won't be draining the site anything worse than is already draining into the existing water network as it is. So we certainly wouldn't expect our development to contribute or have any implications towards any issues that are already ongoing. Obviously, what we can't do is resolve issues in the wider catchment area that might be occurring because of other things. Through our development, we can only mitigate for what we might create. So absolutely. We have to mitigate through our floods ponds and the drainage proposals, as Stephanie showed, and no worse impact than is currently the case. We will take it into account. What we have done is make sure we don't have any development within the floodplain, so we wouldn't expect from that point of view there to be any change in the operation of that network.
Okay, thanks. So I presume that therefore the SUD system, in your view, would mitigate the worst of the heavy rainfall incidents that we have seen in recent years, where you've had that calculation already and built that into your SUD system. Okay, the second question is really related to the biodiversity that has been mentioned. Could you give us some idea as to what sort of biodiversity mitigation you've got planned? I know you said some of that might be conditioned, so you might not have this full plan, but could maybe give us an outline of what you would be wanting to see achieved through that process? Thanks.
In terms of species?
Yeah.
No, not at this stage. I think that's something we'd expect to agree through condition through a landscape strategy for the site. But obviously, we've got an element of biodiversity units, be it woodland or have you hedgerows, linear hedgerows, water features as well. So we need to compensate for all of those through our proposals, but we haven't got that detail finalised yet. But it's something we'd normally expect to deal with through the condition.
Good. Thank you very much. Thanks, Stuart.
Thank you. Councillor Alison.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Ellison here. You mentioned when you spoke cumulative impact, and you said you'd considered cumulative impact, and you said you'd considered it in line with the council as well. Could you give us a bit more detail about how cumulative impact is considered?
I mean, yes, I mean, the methodology for how we do that is fully set out in the environmental impact assessment. What we normally do is identify a list of projects that we think are relevant, so that they're normally things that are in the public domain at a reasonable point before we submit the application. Normally about 3 months before is about the longest we can leave it. So that's anything that's either at a pre-application stage, post-application notice, or even further than that, either an existing or approved development. And what we then do, obviously, is in combination assess our development plus those developments to see what potential impacts might be and whether any additional mitigation is required as a result of those potential effects. So that's the point of that purpose. Now, obviously, there's no guarantee that all of those developments are going to come forward. So we're almost assuming a worst case scenario where they all have come forward as part of our assessment, and thereby any mitigation that is required as a result, we have to embed into our application process.
Thank you very much. Councillor Turner. Alan.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I'm going to pick a little bit on Councillor Carney asked earlier. I look at what's seen on the visuals that's been put up, and it's trying to sense a comparative idea in my head as to, on the one hand, you've shown us the existing substation which is being upgraded, which obviously is for the national line, etc. And then on this one, I've got right next to it, proposed Hurlie station, which again connected to the national grid proposed. And I'm trying to get my one is significantly bigger in size than the other, and yet is it, my understanding is capacity wise in terms of gigawatts, they are comparable. I wonder if you could just comment on that as to just the differences.
So although both sites operate 400 kV, they are actually different in terms of capacity. They also serve different functions on the network. So the existing site currently operates at 275, and the work ongoing at the moment are to upgrade the top 400 kV. And that provides a function of providing 400 kV operation from Contour through Fetreso down to Ailip and then down to Scottish Power's network. And the limitations on that upgrade are what we would call the reconducting process, where we're replacing the conductors on an existing line, and we are limited in capacity and what's the largest conductors we can retrofit to that existing line. So the existing circuits in and out, once upgraded to 400 kV, will take around 2.7 gigawatts in capacity. That's not actually how we measure it, but in simple terms, that's what we could carry. The new lines coming in at Hurlie will be somewhere between 5.5 to 6 gigawatts. So it's much larger capacity. And in terms of what Fetreso, the existing Fetreso serves, if you're looking at access point to the network or lower capacity generation, so you get Mid-Hill connect through distribution network rail will connect there, we'll get Glendie potentially due to connect there. So that provides an entryway to the transmission network, whereas Hurlie is for higher capacity, so it provides different functions in terms of enabling offshore wind, so much higher capacity connections to connect, and it also has the equipment to provide voltage control and voltage stability of the network, which becomes really critical in these high capacity circuits. Sorry, as I say, I'm Callum Trant, Senior Development Project Manager.
Thank you, Callum. I was going to ask. So just some follow-up questions, given the questions that you heard me ask earlier, Stephanie. So I know it's a very small number of journeys that's required for the abnormal loads, but what would be happening if for any reason, because it does happen that the A90 shuts and traffic's diverted for various reasons, appreciating it's coming down from the north though, if it's coming from the port. I'll ask my two further questions at the same time, if that's all right. So when it comes to biodiversity net gain, appreciate everything that you told us during the course of your presentation, that you've got things being worked out at present. Can you provide assurance that all biodiversity net gain would be in Aberdeenshire? That would be a question for you. And I just wondered, in terms of cumulative impacts, what is the maximum, or can you even say what the maximum number of development of other projects that could be developed that could be linked in to Hurlie? Obviously, you know what's out there at the moment. You're factoring for what you said was worst case scenario. What could that look like in terms of the number of lines and so on coming in to this one point? Thank you.
I'll deal with the first two and back Callum for the others. So yeah, I mean, in terms of abnormal loads, as Stephanie says, it is a maximum of 6 loads. And you know, if the A90 is closed, those abnormal load deliveries need to be accompanied and escorted by the police anyway. So you know, if frankly if the A90 is closed, those deliveries just won't happen. They'll have to take place on another day. And I think, and just also picking up on what Stephanie was saying, that abnormal loads route that we are proposing is already an established route for the Fetreso upgrade works. I believe there's a consent already in place for that at the moment for those works, and we will need to do the same when it comes to ours as well. So it is an established route. We do have a way of doing it, so we know it works. The BNG, yeah, absolutely. I mean, ideally, we'd look to deliver all of it on site. We are doing that on other projects that we've had in front of the council in recent months. Unfortunately, given the nature of the site here at Hurlie, we can't do that. So we are looking off-site, but we are committed to that being within Aberdeenshire and ideally as close to the site as we possibly can. Obviously, though, we are limited to where we can do it because they are on a scale that means there's only so many opportunities that need to be done. But so the nature team are hard at work at that and are engaging with natural environment within the council to make sure that is what we managed to achieve. So that's very much our commitment. Yeah, absolutely.
I can answer some of the points about the future incoming works. So in terms of works that we have planned, we've got no plans to make any further connections for our infrastructure. So in terms of overhead lines in and out of the Hurlie site, in terms of cumulative development, A lot of the potential concern comes from third-party developments. And so we have no control or restriction about them lodging applications, either in planning terms or for a grid connection. And under our licence obligation, we are obligated to at least offer them a grid connection. But there are potential restrictions in that in terms of physical space within the site to extend it, or whether there's apparatus within the site that can actually accommodate those incoming connections. And if that's not possible, and usually we have pre-application consultation with these developers, and might be able to give an indication whether the feasibility of them being able to connect them to that site is actually a reality. But at the end of the day, we don't actually have the capacity to prevent them making that application for a grid connection.
Thank you. Councillor Black, Dawn.
Thank you very much. Sorry, I'm right behind you. There's a question around sound pollution and light pollution, please. Not much has been mentioned about that. I mean, obviously during construction there will be some sound and light pollution, but I'm thinking about, you know, the impact on the residents that live in the area. So during construction, you know, what are your working hours planned to be? Are lights going to be kept on when it's dark, so that, you know, we have a big globe if it is a lovely dark sky kind of area? But also once under operation, I mean, there's a lot of concern around the hum that will come from a substation of this size. So if you could just outline a little bit about that and what mitigations can be placed, please.
Sure. I mean, from a construction point of view, yeah, in terms of construction hours, I would expect us to be bound by whatever council condition we've seen on recent applications. Pretty typical working hours of 7 till 7 Monday to Friday, and then Saturday mornings. I don't expect anything different here. We obviously haven't got to that stage yet in terms of discussion with commission, but I would have thought something similar. That, as I say, is very typical from a construction point of view. So that is expressly designed to mitigate and minimise those construction impacts from a noise point of view. In terms of light pollution, obviously within those hours, if those are the hours we're working to, there will be some hours in the winter time that is dark, so there will be an element of lighting done. But once construction is complete at the end of the day, I would expect those light levels to drop. And then certainly once operational, the sites operate on the basis of no formal lighting. It's only required during hours of management and maintenance if there's an issue, plus some infrared sensor lighting and security lighting around the perimeter of the site if need be. So from that point of view, certainly we wouldn't expect any significant levels of pollution, and certainly that's what's been proposed to the application, and the council teams have been satisfied with from that point of view.
And the hum when operational?
I mean, the hum, all I can say from that point of view is we've carried out a noise assessment work, based it on the equipment proposed, and found no significant effects that have come out of it, and adequate mitigation can be deployed through the buildings where buildings are required, you know, through insulation and design and things like that. So certainly we're not presenting or have identified any noticeable issues from that point of view. And again, the environmental health team at the council is satisfied with those findings, and it's all standard stuff that we need to find.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm seeing no further hands at the moment for the applicant, so can I just check there are no further questions from members? No. Okay, then I thank you very much for presenting to us your comments, Chris. I invite you to take a seat. It's 25 to 11. I would suggest we take a 10-minute break, and then we'll come back to hear from the first of our speakers, and it will be beginning with Mr. Ansell from the Crathescombe Converse Community Council. Okay, so we'll reconvene at 10:45. Thank you.